and modular housing, which is a really interesting development in a number of parts of the country and ways in which churches can get involved in this. We've got two stories to be told on this. And so I'm going to introduce Rhiannon Winstanley-Sharples, who's the housing community organiser in St George in the East, in East London, the Stepney area, and also Jez Sweetland. It's great to have Jez with us. He's the chief executive of the Bristol Housing Festival. And they're both going to speak about different adventures in modular housing. So hand over to the two of you. I'm not sure who's going to go first, but I'll offer over to you to tell your story as well.
Shall I go first? Jez? It's all right, Peter. Thank you, Bishop Graham, and everyone else who's spoken. It's been really encouraging. As someone who's trying to do some work in our little corner of the world in Shadwell, it's great to hear about other people doing great work as well. So I'm part of St George in the East congregation. St George's has been using the tools of listening and community organising that Graham just alluded to for some time to work alongside other grassroots institutions in our community and campaign for affordable housing, and in this case supported accommodation. So the Archbishop's Housing Commission rightly talks about the fact that churches are more than places of worship, and that's what we've been talking about tonight. Not only do churches have these valuable land resources, but we also, by virtue of sitting at the heart of communities, have a huge convening power as civic institutions to bring people together across differences. The examples I'm talking about today are not examples where churches necessarily owned land, but we still have power to affect change because of our relationships in the community. So at St George in the East, our affordable housing work started in 2015 with a campaign for a community land trust with truly affordable family-sized homes. I won't be talking about this tonight, but it's important to see how the relationships that we built in that campaign, followed by our success of winning a big piece of land, gave our church the power to explore opportunities for other positive change in Shadwell. So my current role is to further a vision which began in 2019 from both the church and the local mosque to develop the land around the church, some of which we own, some of which the council owns, and some of which a private company own. One of these projects is to create modular supported accommodation for people with experience of homelessness. But before working in Shadwell, I worked for Ilford Salvation Army, also in East London, and I was involved in Malachi Place. So Malachi Place is Ilford Salvation Army's innovative project to create supported accommodation for people who were previously rough sleeping and root this within the church and the wider community. The initiative began from the church seeing the same people coming to their night shelter year in, year out, and maybe some of you have that experience. And there was also a particularly bad winter where quite a few guests at the night shelter died. And this created an impetus for the church to consider how they could do more for people who were sleeping on the street. Ilford Salvation Army already had a strong community network through their night shelter and through their local Citizens Alliance. But themselves, they didn't have any land, and they struggled to find land on a permanent basis. So this is when John Clifton, one of the church leaders at the Salvation Army, began exploring modular accommodation. Modular accommodation is not shipping containers. They are purpose-built using innovative construction methods in factories, which allow for easy transportation, assembly, and then disassembly. Because of how they're built, this unlocks the opportunity to use land on a meanwhile basis. So rather than trying to buy land from a landowner, you simply ask to borrow the land while the landowner isn't planning to develop it anyway. The community group in Ilford found a small piece of land just behind the Salvation Army Church, which was council owned. And after a negotiation with the council, it was agreed that the land could be used for a minimum of 5 years. And this led to Malachi Place, which has 42 self-contained units of accommodation. Each unit has its own kitchen and bathroom. Malachi Place opened in February 2020, just before the pandemic, and has so far supported over 60 people who were previously sleeping on the street. 15 out of these 42 rooms are for people with no recourse to public funds, which again is something that people often struggle with because it's difficult to fund people who have no recourse. The model of Malachi Place is also new because it's rooted within the local community. You have a network of volunteers who support the residents alongside the paid members of staff, and the whole project is embedded within the Salvation Army Church. Whilst I was there, we began exploring replicating the model across the country, and we came across the Hill Group, who for their 20th anniversary established Foundation 200, gifting, for free, it's amazing, 200 modular, extremely high quality units to charities and councils to run as supported accommodation. So the Salvation Army, alongside Citizens UK, building on the success of Malachi Place, established a partnership with the Hill Group to replicate the model of embedding supported accommodation within communities and constructing projects on land on a temporary basis. And I found out that just yesterday, Southend Salvation Army received planning permission to create this for 6 units in Southend. So this is where St George in the East comes in. One of our ministries, the Open Table team, began as outreach to people rough sleeping, providing hot food and a table for community on the streets. But again, like the team in Ilford, there became a frustration. The same people were seen week out, week in, with little change. The team wanted to do more, so we began working, I wasn't there at the time, began working alongside Ilford Salvation Army on a London-wide homelessness campaign. And this is how the team learned about the partnership with the Hill Group. And the Hill Group wants to gift 12 of their units to our borough to be used as supported accommodation. So since then, the team in Shadwell have been building support within the community, have identified a site where the units could go, a site that nothing has been built on for decades, and established a supportive relationship with the council. Currently, I'm supporting the team to approach the landowner of the site and ask to use it for a temporary basis. The success in Ilford and the great network that we have established in Shadwell gives us the courage that we can do this work and that churches can create and build innovative solutions to the housing crisis in our local communities. If you want to know more, I'm happy to tell you more. It's quite complicated, but I hope that has been a little snapshot into something that is innovative and can be done fairly easily if you partner in this.